This paper is a summary of the things that I learned through multiple interdisciplinary fields of study while attending Lower Columbia College. The title for this field research project is Western Parenting Impacts on Human Development and Behavior. Under my previous married name, Sarah Snow Flowers, quantitative and qualitative field research was gathered from 5 research subjects in the fall of 2020 under the guidance of my former sociology professor, Dr. Leah Wheeler. In winter of 2024, the resulting paper was edited and revised. This spring, I am currently in the final stages of analyzing my data and hope to publish my work soon. This paper and all future work will be published under my current legal name, Isha Sarah Snow. I have spent the past year of my education studying the topics of parent imprinting and attachment theories, the role emotion plays in development, ways that fear can impact learning, adverse childhood experiences, and social and moral integration. I have recently taken classes on domestic violence and substance abuse, mental health first aid, developmental psychology, human relations, and interpersonal communications. As part of my sociology class, I combined everything I had learned into this project and developed the hypothesis for this research, which measures prefrontal cortex functionality. I am very grateful for this opportunity to present my work to Central Washington University this year at their SOURCE 2024 Symposium and share with their students and faculty members how I proved my thesis statement by collecting data from qualitative field research and analyzing the results with a mathematical formula I developed that compares statistical differentials in quantitative research gathered from my subjects. It is my hope to expand on this research in the future. I am a transfer student who is currently attending Lower Columbia College in Southwestern Washington, and I am excited to attend Central Washington University and William O. Douglas Honors College this fall. The abstract from this research paper, titled Western Parenting Impacts on Human Development and Behavior, states that using punitive discipline methods results in lower levels of cognitive complexity or how well people perceive things. Low cognitive complexity results in difficulties with self-control and emotional self-regulation, which shows up in adulthood as deviant behaviors such as impulsivity and aggression. Deviance is any behavior or reaction that lies outside of social norms. This research project focuses on socio-emotional deviant behaviors which fail to conform to society's norms and expectations, such as aggression and low impulse control. This research compiled qualitative data from 5 interview subjects who represent a range of ages, genders, and races, and analyzed the information, comparing it to quantitative data, and concluding that experiencing supportive correction in the form of connection, empathy, and understanding, alongside clear and direct communication in childhood, mitigated potential difficulties with emotional regulation in adulthood. The objective of this research was to connect attachment theory with situational control theory, providing a valuable link between the fields of psychology and sociology, and this paper's findings offer a potential solution to mitigating and preventing deviant behaviors resulting from difficulties with emotional regulation. The literature review contains the topics of parent imprinting and role modeling, attachment and communications theories, the role emotion plays in development and how it is stifled by insecure attachment, ways that fear can impact learning and development, adverse childhood experiences, social and moral integration, and the prefrontal cortex of the brain. 90% of the human brain structure is formed by the time a child is 5 years old, meaning that our early childhood experiences shape who we are as individuals, and these early experiences also form our societal and cultural norms. My sociology final for fall quarter 2023 was to conduct a field research project on the assigned general topic of studying deviant behavior in society. We were to formulate a hypothesis, design the methodology, collect data, and analyze and present our findings in a research paper. I wanted to study the effect attachment has on behavior, and I formulated the following thesis statement based on my studies the previous year in the fields of trauma and mental health and my own personal experiences in active recovery from significant relational PTSD. It is well documented that the ways that parents and caregivers communicate with their children affect a child's abilities to empathize. Using punitive discipline methods can damage or arrest development to the prefrontal cortex. Child symptomology appears as difficulties with self-control and emotional self-regulation, and in adulthood, impulsivity and aggression. Prefrontal cortex functionality can be measured by evaluating an individual's cognitive complexity through differences between their morality and emotional intelligence. At the time of recording this presentation, the literature review contains 79 references, and of those, academic sources are cited from 55 separate peer-reviewed studies. From the 55 studies referenced, a meta-analysis shows that 17 have a direct link between childhood attachment and adult mental health outcomes. At least 6 reference the connection between attachment and family communication styles, while 8 studies link family communication styles to social, emotional, and cognitive development. 12 studies link social, emotional, and cognitive development to moral development. 3 show a connection between morality, behavior, and self-control, while 5 studies show a link to the prefrontal cortex, behavior, and self-control. A recurring pattern in a majority of the studies was the mention of the prefrontal cortex, specifically the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the right orbital frontal cortex areas of the brain. Studies cited of particular significance were the Vahid et al. 2018 study, see the image shown on right, published in Neuroscience, which shows how the DLPFC and the OFC work together as an integrated hot and cold cognitive and emotional interdependent network. The primary research paper used for my literature review was Attachment as a Mediator Between Childhood Maltreatment and Adult Symptomology by Mueller et al., published in 2012, because it supports my theory of deviant behaviors relating to a trauma-related disconnect between the mind, which is cognitive, and the body, which is emotional, centered in the prefrontal cortex region of the brain. Mueller et al. Cite multiple other studies, and they created vital academic dialogue with their paper. I gathered both qualitative and quantitative data from my research subjects and compared the results. I developed a series of questions to gather data on my research subjects' social, emotional, and moral development. That qualitative data was then analyzed using family communication theory, attachment theory, differential association theory, and situational control theory. I used family communication theory categories while analyzing the data gathered from my 5 research subjects to categorize the FCT types experienced in childhood based on the interview results. Of the 5 subjects consenting to give interviews for this research project, subjects A, C, and D described their families of origin as being protective, which is low conversation and high conformity. Subject B described his family as being pluralistic, which is high conversation and low conformity. And Subject E described her family as being consensual, which is high conversation and high conformity. Quantitative data was gathered from research subjects using 2 separate quizzes, Moral Foundations and Emotional Intelligence, from the IDR Labs website. An observable correlation occurred between lower deviations, meaning less difference, between morality and emotional intelligence scores, and subjects reporting higher levels of emotional disturbances along with past experiences of physical and punitive discipline in childhood. Evaluating the data trends and patterns resulted in an observable relationship between a poorly developed prefrontal cortex and research subjects having experienced punitive and physical punishments in childhood with an absence of supportive discipline present. These findings were also consistent with the subjects' reported social and emotional difficulties that were self-reported during their interviews. The numbers obtained from the overall emotional intelligence score subtracted from the moral foundations quiz scores measured the subject's standard deviation between emotional acuity and moral sensibility in individuals through the resulting MEX index measurement. Subjects A and C both scored below a 10, which was significant because both subjects did not experience supportive discipline in childhood and did experience physical and punitive discipline. Subject A scored a 5.81, while subject C scored 7.43. The subjects who scored above a 10 also reported experiencing significantly less current social and emotional difficulties in adulthood than subjects A and C. Subjects E, D, and B did not report experiencing physical discipline. Subjects E and B reported experiencing supportive discipline. Subject E scored 19.71. Subject D scored 20.53. Subject B, who experienced supportive discipline and who did not experience physical discipline, had the highest MES score at 41.19. This literature review referenced numerous studies linking attachment and emotional trauma through the prefrontal cortex to social and moral integration, and confirms the correlation by using both quantitative and qualitative research methods. Trends and patterns of this study could potentially link traditional Western parenting methods with human moral decline on both individual and societal levels. My work was inspired by French sociologist Durkheim, who said that a society's suicide rates are based on an imbalance of social and moral integration. Based on his earlier work, I have concluded that the elimination of punitive discipline practices in childhood would reduce suicide rates significantly. The results of this study are supported by the pre-existing literature on the subject, and my findings would justify further research with a larger sample size to obtain more accurate results. In conclusion, this study confirms impacts of Western parenting methods and the subsequent effects on the development of the prefrontal cortex during childhood. The results from this study affirm the central role that attachment plays as a mediator to both symptomology and recovery. This study shows that supportive correction in the form of connection, empathy, and understanding in childhood mitigated emotional regulation difficulties that result in impulsive or aggressive behaviors as an adult. These study results indicate that discipline has a direct impact on the formation of the brain structures that are responsible for development of morality and emotional intelligence, particularly the right orbitofrontal cortex. Through the qualitative interviews provided by the 5 subjects involved, this paper concludes that the presence of secure attachment and the use of supportive discipline methods in childhood will increase cognitive complexity. This study indicates that making a cultural shift away from using punitive consequences by adopting supportive parenting methods that use pluralistic communication patterns could dramatically increase the Western population's overall mental health. There are similarities between family communications theory and attachment theory, and an obvious relationship between how a family communicates with each other, particularly during times of conflict, to how attached and safe that they feel. This paper opens up an opportunity for future academic dialogue. I have listed the references here that were used directly in the slideshow: Vahid, Mueller, and Yin. I have also included the link to the working copy of my paper hosted by Google Docs, which contains my full literature review and a list of all 79 references used. My appreciation should first be expressed to Dr. Leah Wheeler for her instruction, guidance, and support during this project. I would also like to thank my parents and my children. I am grateful to Washington's Wraparound Intensive Services Program, especially their peer counselors, for partially inspiring this thesis statement and hypothesis. I greatly appreciate Central Washington University for giving me the opportunity to share this work. My deepest gratitude to Dr. Christina Dennison, Elena Yachenko, and Dr. Hideki Takei at CWU for their support. I would also like to acknowledge Sky Emerson's help on this project. Thank you.